Also, Kenny Pickett was a whiff by me. I liked Pickett. I didn't think he was amazing, but I thought he could be fine. But
Well,
that looks bad.
yeah, well, you never know.
Yeah.
I like
Well, I mean,
Levis, you know.
I mean,
So
Levis they're heating up. It looks like they're gonna lean into him. They're gonna go Joe Alt
it'll
at
be
seven,
fine.
maybe, and then just kind of build that line and go with it.
You think so? Joe
Yeah,
Alt at 7.
why not?
You don't think that the Chargers going to go Joe Alt? You think they have to go wide
Mm,
receiver now?
I mean, yeah, kind of.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we are on a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Hey, getting antsy, man. Getting antsy.
Hmm.
Getting antsy. I mean, at this point, like we're pretty much, rounding out, our research as far as the top 64 kind of guys.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Which has just been a lot of fun and a lot of
Hmm.
information and head spinning, man. I'm ready to narrow it down. I'm ready to knock another first round out so we can whittle this down to 32 guys. So,
Yeah,
what
I
about
think.
you?
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. It's been fun. Obviously now we've watch tape on everybody if we haven't, And it's been really interesting to dive into these guys. I think that the opening matchups are a lot harder this year, which is fun. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to get into this, and I think as we kind of dive further into this bracket, I think it's going to get really interesting here.
Ooh, it's going to be spicy. Hell yeah, Christian, man. I'm telling you, it's there is no off season at
Mm-mm.
RDR. We're
Not an
enjoying ourselves.
RDR. So
So,
on that note, let's just go ahead and crack into it. So if you've been following along with us, we did the west side of the bracket. We did the Midwest side of the bracket. So those guys have all moved on. 8 people from each bracket have moved on. And now we are going to hit you with the Atlantic side of the bracket. So this is all the East Coast. Anybody touching the Atlantic. So Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, you guys are in there. And two, just helped with the bracket distribution, so appreciate you on that. Speaking of which, we got our first matchup coming up, and it's two Georgia teams. So we got the number 1 seed tight end Brock Bowers coming out of Georgia, as well as Daijun Edwards, running back. And unfortunately, for team on team, this is a little bit of a bloodbath, I think, for Edwards, huh?
a little bit. I'd say, Edwards, he had a good no. He's a 16th seed. He got
Mm-mm.
waxed by a number one, a true number one
Yeah.
in Brock Bowers. So there's nothing to see here.
Mm-mm, not really. Like Edwards is solid, his past 2 years, but it's nothing to write home about. It's just to me, that's kind of the word for him. It's just he's solid. He doesn't have a ton of breakout speed. He's got good movement, but it's not like crazy good, I wouldn't say. That South Carolina game, he looked awesome. I would say he looked really shifty in that game. Good vision, I think, uses blocking pretty well. But I just think he lacks that X factor to kind of like make him pop as a fantasy guy.
Yeah, I'll give you that, man. It's kind of same take, decent vision, okay adjustments, could
Hmm.
read blocks all right. But really, I mean, the only cool thing he had that was consistency wise was 13 touchdowns on 164 carries. Otherwise, there wasn't a ton of consistency. And my favorite thing about this guy is he's like, I got it, guys. I know
Hmm.
what to do. I'm gonna go to the combine. I'm gonna do just the broad jump. I'm at the worst jump at my position, and then I'm just gonna call it a day. So, he's not really winning any favors for me for doing all that. So, hats off to him. He came out and tried, but didn't hit 900 yards. And his grade was 80, so that's okay, but there's nothing really here to to get me pumped about him putting together like a strong NFL showing. So
No, yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think he could end up on a roster and you know be a role player. I don't know how old he is. He's the only guy I haven't been able to find an age. I don't know if you have
uh,
that information, but I couldn't find it. So I don't know like how long, but again, it's not going to be some fantasy breakout year or career for that matter. I mean, hopefully he proves us wrong for him. That'd be awesome, but don't think so. So moving on, we've got number one Brock Bowers, another strong favorite for this tournament moving forward and leaving Daijun Edwards behind. So moving on to our 8 and 9 seed matchup, we've got wide receiver Xavier Legette out of South Carolina going up against the 9 seed Dylan Laube, running back out of New Hampshire. This was a interesting one for me. I'm excited. What do you think? I'm gonna kick this one to you.
so the way I wrote it was I did my South and then I did my Atlantic.
Okay, I
So
was
I've
the
got a
opposite, so that's
callback,
interesting.
a callback to the South, and what happened for me because yeah, Dylan was really interesting. We know as a pass catcher, maybe we'll get into it here in a second, but he was stellar. But I watched the South Carolina game versus Mississippi State, and I just watched the full game, like highlights,
Hmm.
because I was watching a few of those Mississippi State guys. And man, Xavier Legette had like just an insane game where it's like 5 catches for 189 yards. And then some big catches. It was like, I don't know, just the run after the catch and his ability to like stop and catch a ball and keep running. He did some plays that just made it easy for me to say he's advancing no matter
Hmm.
what. I see on the revisit to Dylan Laube. So that's kind of the direction I went with Leggett winning this one.
Yeah, I actually ended up there with you. I like Labe, or is it Labo or
Yeah,
Labe?
it's Lave. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna say some weird shit.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I can sound like an idiot sometimes. Romeo
Nah.
Dobbs got me feeling dumb for a while.
Oh, the doob.
The Doobs. But anyway, yeah. So Leggett, like, so watching him when we did our first kind of profile on him, I was like, damn, this guy's huge. He's fast. And then it kind of seemed like during the Senior Bowl he lost a little bit of that and then didn't look right.
Mhm.
Well, then in the combine he made up for that running that 3-3. So like that size and speed combination at the wide receiver position just can't really be ignored. And then as much as I like
Sexy.
Labe, I do think he put good tape out there, and like you're saying, he's dynamic. He's got that dual threat ability, like completely down. 100% could handle that workload. But he's 24, and during his two best seasons, which have been his last two, he's played against powerhouses like Dartmouth and Townsend and Stony Brook and Holy Cross and
Wow.
Fordham. Like you see where I'm kind of
Some of
going
those are
with
made
this?
up. Tell me which ones are made up.
Exactly. No, they're all real. And I was expecting to see
What?
like one team in there that you're like, oh, I've heard of that, or like whatever. The only one that I had heard of was Monmouth, and that's
Mhm.
because of Jaden Shirden, who's also in this tournament. And that's the only reason I heard of him.
Ah, shit.
So it wasn't like just the whole conference. And so it's one of those things like, do I really think that this 24-year-old running back who looked awesome against subpar competition is going to show up in the NFL and be a game changer? Probably not. I'll take a flyer on him in a rookie draft, probably, maybe like in later rounds, depending on if he gets drafted or where he gets drafted, obviously. I wouldn't mind that
Yeah.
because maybe for like a season or two, he could do like some Danny Woodhead type stuff for you. But the upside of Leggett, like even if I'm not necessarily 100% the biggest Leggett guy,
Should
that
be.
upside is crazy. Like if he hits big. And Labe, I think could hit what like not I don't think he could hit big, and that's the whole point. But like if he did hit, it would be big with that dual threat ability and his skill set. But I just don't think that's gonna happen. So I was with you. I moved on Leggett here as well.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give Dylan from New Hampshire a little bit of love, right? With the 88 targets, having the
Hmm.
top receiver grade in this class at a 90.5. But given the competition level to find him in the bottom 5 in rushing metrics, including elusiveness
Mm,
and breakaway yards and yards after contact and yards per
yeah.
attempt. It's like, hey man, like if you're going to be out here catching 700 passing yards, like can you at least just like put your shoulder through a guy once or
Hmm.
twice? And he's
Yeah.
like, no, I don't have that in my game, and so that's going
It's
to
not in
probably
his
keep him off of the
repertoire.
field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. Like he was fun and I got really into him and this was one of those times I had to reel in like my that man, I really liked that guy on tape and realize like no, this would be silly for it to not be the number 8 seed Xavier Legette moving on and leaving our 9 seed Dylan Laube behind.
Deuces.
So let's get into a really interesting matchup here with our 5 seed wide receiver Ricky Pearsall going up against the 12 seed, also a wide receiver in Malik Washington. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I went into this one, I already wrote Malik Washington's name as my predicted winner before even watching any Ricky Pearsall. And he made it close. I still ended up going with Malik, and I'll be interested to see where you land on this one. But Ricky, he has smooth routes. He can get open. He's got really good hands, I thought. He had a nice combine, too. Really nice combine. 98th percentile burst score, 99th percentile catch radius. I think he could be a really good slot player. There's a ton of these really good slot players, and Dylan, or not Dylan, sorry, still stuck on Labe. Ricky is like a little bit taller too, so he can kind of play outside. He's on the thinner side, but that's not uncommon in the NFL anymore. So he might have a little bit of more versatility to him. I've seen him compared to like Julian Edelman, which
Oh
that
wow.
that's cool. I think he's more athletic than that, but also like my fear there would be like, what is Edelman without Brady, I guess? I don't know
Mm.
if Julian Edelman's on any other team than the Patriots while Brady's still there. Like, is he a thing? So that's kind of where I'm worried about with Parasol, maybe if that's the comparison from the bigwigs. Obviously, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but the landing spot to me is big. And the problem is there's a ton of really good slot receivers and really good slot receivers. And I think some of them have more upside. And to me, Malik Washington is one of them. And I'm going to highlight a few stats here for why. So missed tackles forced in the receiving game, Malik Washington 35, Ricky 9. You know,
9.
uh Malik Washington 3.15 yards per route run, Ricky 2.23. Uh Yards after the catch 711 for Malik Washington versus 374 for Parasol. And then contested catch rate 65% for Malik Washington and 50 for Parasol, which you might say like, oh, that's not that bad. You know, a couple catches can change it until you realize that Washington has 11 catches contested and Parasol only has 10 contested targets. So so it's not the same. You know, he's doubled him in contested catches. So to me, Malik Washington has this tremendous upside that I'm just a really big Washington believer, I think. And to me, he still ended up taking it. But Parasol, I do think, has a chance to be like a contributor in the NFL.
Oh, I think absolutely. He locked that in with his combine, man. I mean, you went through the burst scores and the 4.41 and the 40. Like to have a guy with that kind of decent size, and that kind of catch radius to also be super athletic.
Hmm.
And like you said, he did look good on the field. Like he knew what he was doing out there. The thing that I really liked about him is he had a 75% catch rate, which
Hmm.
is top 5 in this bracket. Um, but right, Washington had an 80% catch rate. So there's no way, especially
Hmm.
with the volume that that you highlighted just on the contested targets versus contested catches. Like Washington is just out there doing this. He's one of the most heavily targeted receivers in all of college football this past year, and he had massive success and
Hmm.
like and not as like a catch and run guy or like a deep ball a dot guy, but like as a grizzly bossy like stealing the yards from you while you're watching them kind of guy. I don't know. You know what I
No,
mean?
I'm with
But
you. I'm 100% with you. Yeah.
yeah, I'm huge on Washington. It's yeah, I see the future, Washington, but he's definitely winning this matchup for me.
Nice.
Feels
Okay, so
good.
I'm glad we were on the same page on that. But man, Pearsall he impressed me.
Yeah,
I
no.
was kind of shocked going in. I was like, damn, okay, this guy's a real player. It's kind of sad to see him kind of lose. I would have been interested to see him get a little farther, get up against some different guys, but unfortunately, we have an upset. Uh Ricky Pearsall, number 5 seed, going down, and Malik Washington, the 12 seed, he is moving on.
Rising
He might
high.
be a sleeper in this tournament, everybody, because it seems like me and
Your eyes on him.
Daniel are on the same page about that.
He's
So
got
we
a
are.
pretty easy path.
It doesn't look hard because next
Yeah,
up we got the
shit.
4 seed, Keon Coleman out of Florida State, wide receiver, going up against number 13 seed, Javon Baker, wide receiver. I I am not a Keon Coleman guy. I'm
Yeah,
just not. And
sure.
I think Javon Baker is got some sleeper potential to him. Yards per reception, 22. My goodness. What are you talking about? That's crazy. I know his competition level isn't amazing either. Kind of talking about some other guys, but his ball tracking skills I think are really, really awesome. And I think he has really good body control. He has some difficult high concentration catches on his film that I really, really enjoyed. I don't think either one of these guys really is like a wide receiver one, at least not right now. Definitely not. But like, if I'm gonna take the chance on one of these guys, to me, I'm gonna take the chance on Baker. He just does more to me. I think he's a better route runner. I think he has a more versatile set of routes. And then like that's kind of demonstrated in the yards per route one. For Coleman was 1.74 versus 3.21 for Baker. Um, Coleman obviously has that good leaping ability, and he can has that physicality and size to be able to kind of bully balls, which is nice and nice to have in the NFL. 4.6 40 doesn't really do it for me. And then what really doesn't do it for me is how, if that's how I'm going to describe you, is not very fast but big physical and go and get the ball. Are you 10 for 30 on contested catches then? Like what?
Mm.
I don't see it. I don't see it with this guy. This is one of my, just maybe I'm going to be wrong. He finished the season with 6 straight games of under 70 yards. And I'm just not a big Keon Coleman guy. I feel like he's going to get drafted somewhere. Maybe I just feel like a team that I don't really like is going to end up drafting him. And it's going to be this whole cycle of guys I don't like. And maybe he ends up popping, but I'm going to take a chance on Baker myself. What are you thinking?
Oh man. Well, yeah, I like Baker for all the reasons you're describing. Um, yeah, but I thought that we should probably go Coleman
Mm,
for just because it's like an exercise in what if.
mm,
Um, because there's a lot of smoke, so there might
yeah.
be a little bit of fire. And I thought we owed it to ourselves to like give them the freebie on this and reevaluate a little deeper for the next round. Because the things we don't like about him are glaring, but the things that you could like about him, they're just the red zone ability, the big catch radius, and there is a presence of elusiveness for
Mhm.
him. My
Yeah.
thing is I like Javon Baker. Like I love this guy. I watched the Cincinnati game and he had like two of some of the most impressive catches I've seen in this whole
Hmm.
evaluation process. One where he like kind of stopped and jumped and caught a ball that most people wouldn't have caught, and another one where he caught a tipped pass. It was like a duck that would is
Hmm.
it's a tip pass and he just grabbed it and he stopped and like looped around, did a complete 180 and just like ran around like three defenders and got an extra 8-10 yards after the catch. He does a lot of impressive stuff, the
Hmm.
footwork, the route
Yeah,
running,
I'm with you.
the kind of like the shiftiness is it's all really, really good and consistent. But I don't know if he's going to bring home the bacon at the NFL level. Whereas the thing with Keon, and I think that I agree with everything you're saying. My whole thing is that draft capital is going to be a big deal. And
Yeah.
there's no way I don't think Coleman makes it out of the top 50
Mm.
draft picks. And so we're talking like that's the space right there where you know, like George Pickens was drafted
Hmm.
right in that area. So you're gonna get some kind of I think you're gonna get some kind of a cult following and
Mm.
a lot of opportunity. So I don't know, man. I don't want to do it, but I feel like we owe it to ourselves to like just let this happen the way it needs to happen. I don't know, but I'm down to be disagreed with. I don't know.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying. Coleman does have this upside. He has this athletic prowess upside. And he's only 20, he's not even 21, so he could be grabbed and developed into this impressive receiver. And if he falls, kind of what you're saying, if he falls to the right spot and somebody can develop him and draft him early and believes in him, it could end up working really well. So I do think the upside on Coleman is way excuse me, way higher than Javon Baker's. I like Javon Baker though better as a
Yeah,
player. I think he's more developed. I think he's like already there. Whereas Coleman, I think, needs to get there. But I do agree with you. Like if they were both to hit, then I think Coleman would be like better, like he would have a higher ceiling than Baker.
right.
So I guess in that sense, I could go with it because it's not like I was like in love with Baker or anything. I did like
Oh,
him.
oh,
So I'm okay moving him. I would say if this was just my tournament, I would probably still push Baker forward but I'm out. I'm not. And maybe
yeah,
maybe maybe pushing him further into the tournament and I can dig a little deeper on him again and reevaluate. It could happen because
yeah.
if he goes somewhere spicy, you know it's gonna matter, but I just don't see myself drafting him.
Okay, I'm with you on that, man. For these guys, a couple of things that they basically had the same targets and catches, right?
Hmm.
Which is both like very poor catch rates below 62%.
Hmm.
But yeah, Baker definitely had like 500 more yards on the
Hmm.
same amount. But at the same time, Coleman had more touchdowns,
Hmm.
and I think that like the ability to visualize him as a red zone weapon
Yeah.
like slots into so many offenses
Yeah.
in such a big way. So that's that. I'm just going on pure upside, and I'm totally cool with being wrong. What? Let me just check. Let me just peek future here. Oh yeah, our dude's got to go up against Malik Washington. So you know,
He ain't making it farther than that. Neither one of these guys was probably going to beat Malik, given how we talk about him. So yeah, I'm good with it. I see you, I hear you, and I'll be willing to meet you in the middle here and let Keon Coleman move on. So our 4 seed, Keon Coleman taking it to Javon Baker. Sorry, UCF. That was another small school. We're losing all the small schools, which
it's gonna
makes sense.
happen.
Makes
We still
sense.
got
So,
Virginia.
yeah, we do have Virginia. That's nice. I think we have one more. I don't know. Doesn't matter because we're moving on to the number 6 seed. We've got Devontez Waler, wide receiver out of North Carolina, going up against running back Trey Benson out of Florida State. To me, this one wasn't super hard. To me, this is Trey Benson all day, every day. He was one of the bigger combine risers in my eyes, him and Jalen Wright. They came up big time in the running back room. Him running a 4.39 at 216 is just
Oh
awesome.
yeah,
I mean, I know that's extensively a
bananas.
4.4, but it is what it is. It's crazy. He has that, he does still to me have that bit of boomer bust to him. He did have 5 games under 50 rushing yards this season, but he has a home run size and speed combination. Um, and I just like his game as a fantasy option more than Walker, who I don't know. Like I said the first time we talked about him, I feel like all he did was hitch and goes. He had 18 catches on goes and hitch routes and 18 catches combined on all other routes. So
Which
it's just kind of, I don't know. It just reminds me of De'Ami Brown 2.0, who I
for
was in
sure.
on, and I'm not getting tricked again.
Yeah, I mean for him, and I kind of gave the a recent profile on him, but it's all the same things that I highlighted there. It's like only two missed tackles forced, only the
Hmm.
2.8 on the yards after catch per route. Drop rate was high. Just he lacked elusiveness as a runner, and I don't know. He can high point a ball. Contested catches were pretty decent, which is kind of cool, but I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see a ton of guys with those like few pop skills be able to carve out a role when you're up against some of these really, really kind of well-rounded
Hmm.
physical wide receivers that we have in this class. So definitely love Benson. I don't think like Benson could have knocked off a ton of these guys. It just so happened to he's up against Walker that we're not too hot on.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I do think Benson probably is he I don't know how far we'll see where who he's got to face up against, but yeah, I think Benson stock rose. I mean, we have him as an 11 seed, and our seeding system wasn't perfect, but it
It was all
was,
pre-combine.
yeah, it was pre-combine and kind of based around preseason rankings about stuff not even our rankings. So it's kind of weird, but he was an 11 seed, and I feel like he should have been higher than that, And so I do think he's going to push a little here. So you won't hear an argument from me. So we have another upset, the 11 seed Trey Benson moving on, leaving Devontez Waler out of North Carolina back in North Carolina. He'll get
See
drafted
ya.
though. It'll be a good night for
Maybe
him,
by the
but
Panthers.
maybe
Just
by the Panthers. How fun. He could stay there. But let's move on. We've got our 3 seed lad McConkey, wide receiver out of Georgia, going up against our 14 seed Jaden Shirden out of Monmouth, the Monmouth Eagles. What are you feeling on this one?
Monmouth Eagles. This is a like a lad. This is a lad
Yeah.
joint. He locked it in with the 4.39 and
Hmm.
and just all the funky stuff we've been talking about as far as his like execution and his
Yeah.
his consistency as a route runner and like the
Hmm.
visible effort and people are like, people are falling in love with him for all the right reasons. He's got a little competition with Ricky now as far as like that. They're very similar in their physicality and their athletic abilities. So we might have to fight that fight, but for me, it's pretty much a gimme. He's
Yeah.
got a ton of potential, but I did like Jaden. It was a fun watch, I
Hmm.
feel like he had like a ton of contact balance and decent power and good patience behind the line. But we're talking about a 187-pound guy, small
School.
school,
Yeah.
small hopes is kind of
Yeah.
how it goes. Um, but yeah, he can move, man. Open field style is pretty effective. He kind of stays at full speed and adjusts well to stay out of the reach of defenders. So, I mean, it all added up to the breakaway runs and the yards per attempt being among the highest in the class. But
Yeah.
but the size just gives him struggles up the middle, and so I
Hmm.
don't know if he's going to make waves at the next level.
Yeah, he's fun. He's super fun watch.
Yeah, a lot of
Such a
fun.
small school though. Trying to watch him, it's like watching home movies from the 90s sometimes.
No,
You got to
for
get all
real.
that old school film. But or not old school film, but like just literally recorded.
No, there are VHSs.
Yeah, that's how far back they are. They're still rocking the VHS. That's how small they are. But Sheridan's fun. He's fast-ish, 4.45. That's pretty good. But for 187, I don't know, you'd
Mhm.
like to see that really bang a little more. But you're right. Like he was fun. But again, it's one of those you have to take everything he's doing with a grain of salt. Like he's playing against Laube in New Hampshire. Like
For
the
real.
the schools they're playing against. And if he's getting stopped at the line against those guys, if that's already a problem, and then that speed isn't that top tier speed that you would look for out of a guy that's smaller. I mean, you look at somebody like somebody that I'm excited about, Jalen Wright, has a little more size and more speed. So like it just doesn't make sense that he's gonna come in and just be this guy. Like I think he could, he might end up being a sneaky little like late round draft pick where he can kind of be a rotational guy and be a little fun. Maybe enter the return game. I don't know how much he
Enter
did
the
that.
return game. I'm
Uh
sure.
but That would be fun, but I don't see him beating Lad. Lad is, like you're saying, his route running ability is awesome. I think he's going to be a lot of fun, and I actually think that Pearsall matchup would be good if he didn't already lose. So,
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting conversation though. Lad McConkey and Ricky Pearsall. I know that they're similar players, so seeing like kind of where people land on those guys will be interesting. One vastly outproduced the other. Um, so it's pretty interesting, but the fact that I'm talking about a different guy during this matchup, I guess, is kind of my point.
Right.
uh, so Shirden, yeah, I'm with you. Shirden was fun. It was exciting. I just don't see him moving on much in the NFL.
Yep, for sure not.
Okay. So, all right. So we got the number 3 seed, Lad McConkey, moving on and leaving another small school in the dust, Jaden Shirden. So moving on to our number 7 versus 10 matchup, we got Johnny Wilson, wide receiver out of Florida State, and running back Will Shipley out of Clemson. Oof. This is another like kind of tough one to me. I think it goes kind of back to the conversation we've been having where it's like that
Ah,
upside potential versus maybe like consistent yet not flashy,
okay. I
if that
agree.
makes
It's
sense.
yeah. Now I think I know where you're going with that.
Hmm.
Um, but man, for real, this was really hard.
Mm.
For me personally. I kind of had Wilson as the winner the whole time, but then like last minute, probably in the last 90 minutes, I had to flip it, man. I had to
Yeah.
flip it. Yeah. Yeah, and I really like Wilson, but for me, the problem was the yards after the catch
Mm.
per reception
Yeah.
of 3.8, as
That's
well
tough.
as I mean, seriously, like what are we talking about? This guy only had 2 touchdowns and he's 6.5 feet tall with 35-inch arms. Like
Hmm.
if you can't break a tackle being that big, like
Yeah, that's
what are you
fair.
doing, man? I think that with the 4 and 13 matchup, this coin flip belongs to you for sure. But
Okay.
where I sit, I'm leaning Will Shipley, but
Okay.
I'm willing to talk it out.
Well, I mean, I honestly, I still have a question mark apparently sitting there. I thought I had picked one for this, but I don't.
Uh-oh.
Apparently didn't. So I was, I'm kind of in the middle. Wilson is not somebody that I'm super interested in. Like he has that serious upside potential as a red zone weapon. He's 6'6", 35-inch arms, which puts him in the 100th percentile. And
Yeah.
he didn't run a slow 40 for that size either, like a 4.5. I mean, Keon Coleman ran a damn 4.6. And so like there's that potential. And so that upside is there, but it could get fumbled a la Darren Waller. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
go ahead.
but like Waller, he had power.
Yeah.
I don't think Wilson could play tight end because out there
Yeah.
he looks like a fast wide receiver with stilts on his feet. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah, that's
doesn't look
fair.
like a body out there. He looks like just a lengthy,
Hmm.
quick dude. You know what I mean?
I guess
So
that's
you have to
fair.
beef
Yeah.
himself up. And I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know what Waller's weight was at the combine, but
Oh, yeah. I don't even mean going to tight end. I mean, still,
oh
I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
just the way Darren Waller is this like taller, bigger, athletic guy that everyone tried to use and it like popped for a season or two and then was never the
Oh,
same, I guess is
because
more
you were
what I
saying
meant.
is a bad thing. Shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoops.
Sorry. Yeah. So to me, that's like the fear is that, and maybe Waller's a bad example because he was a tight end, but it just the frame, I guess, is similar to me. But and maybe that's just way off base. I have no
I
fucking
think
clue.
Waller came in as a wide receiver, so
Yeah,
it's like that.
100%. So yeah, I mean, but I guess Will Shipley probably doesn't have the upside of like a fantasy superstar or anything like that. Like he's probably just going to be this consistent presence in an RB room, but he's good, man. He's got good vision. His ceiling just is kind of what it is. But I don't think that's a bad thing. So I would move him on because I do think he'll be a rotational guy. He'll be a backup. He could be a handcuff for you in some seasons. He could be something. Whereas I think Wilson could be, but I honestly think Wilson's going to be end up being more of an experiment gone wrong than an actual thing. And while the upside is higher, and like we pushed Keon Coleman through a little bit earlier, I can go Will Shipley here thinking kind of the same thing. Like one of these two guys isn't going to hit, you know?
Mm.
And so to me, I'm fine because I do think Shipley may not have, like I said, a consistent, like long time producing career, but I do think he'll be a player.
Yeah, and he really was a pretty excellent pass catching back.
Hmm.
So the stats don't really cut through, but the on film, like he was definitely
Yeah.
doing really well as a receiver. The few things that made me want to go Wilson at first is the fact that he's less than 35% on his breakaway yards,
Mm.
and that's not just this past season when he was competing for snaps, but even in the prior year when he was like the dude getting all the workload, he still wasn't breaking away.
Yeah.
Um, Lower yards per attempt. But these are things that, I'm just keeping a half eye on as I'm looking at like Johnny Wilson, who, without a doubt is definitely shows some high in fluidity for his size and squirreliness.
Hmm.
But yeah, like you're saying, like you're gonna have to take him to a useful level because I don't think he's there currently.
Yeah. I'm with you. All right. Well, then we have another upset. This has been the Atlantic bracket of the upsets. The seven
Big
seed Johnny
waves.
Wilson failing to move forward, and we've got the 10 seed Will Shipley moving on. So that brings us to our last matchup. We've got the second seed Drake Maye, our lone quarterback in the Atlantic division, going up against Rasheen Ali coming out of Marshall, running back. And I think this one's pretty obvious. I think Drake Maye takes this. What did you have on Rasheen?
All right, here's what I got. I got the guy's not elusive. He's bringing out one of the worst combinations of yards after the catch and missed tackles force,
Mhm.
as well as like the worst general combination of rushing and receiving grade in the tournament.
Nice.
But I really did like watching his film. He had 15 total touchdowns, which was a strong number, but five fumbles is also a strong number.
Oof.
But yeah, there's some things to be liked. Particularly, I liked his ability to navigate through congestion. So he had some strong runs where he was able to get through the trenches, which wasn't always the case. But once he got through the trenches, he had like a stealthy weave through the next level. And it kind of translated in five of those 15 touchdowns were over 50 yards. Like
Nice.
the guy got clean and just made it happen. But then if you go back to that 15 touchdown number, seven of those were 2 yards or less. So
Mm.
he has like some levels of his game that kind of show some special potential, but like definitely not enough consistency on paper and not really with the competition level and everything. And we didn't have much of a workout for him. He only did the bench, which was like 26, which was cool, but like he didn't run or anything. So we don't know exactly what he's working with. So he didn't do anything to stand out.
Yeah.
But I did think it was interesting. He was one of those guys where I went through all the box scores to see what his touchdown runs were because I saw some like flashy potential with just
Hmm.
an awful elusiveness. And I was like, there's got to be, there has to be
Something
some
here.
stat to
Yeah.
support what I'm seeing here, and some of those longer runs must have been it. So
Gotcha. Yeah, he was an interesting watch. I mean, it felt really up and down even watching the tape, which I don't think a lot of times feels like. Sometimes I'll watch a guy and not feel like he's up and down, and then you look at the stats and it does feel that way. And I don't know if that's the games I pick or the order they are, but whatever. But you're right. I mean, he's got decent size to him, 206, 5'11. On the older side for a rookie running back, so that's always unfortunate. But he did have some fun. Like I didn't know the stats, but I had seen a couple of the long touchdown runs, so he can take it to the house if given the chance. So another one of these guys who may end up as like just one of these rotational RB guys. I mean, the NFL needs him. They churn out all these random guys all the time, but he could just as easily get lost in the fold. Whereas Drake Maye obviously is going to be one of the top 3 picks in the draft probably, and um, kind of just even going to have more opportunity, way more opportunity to provide your dynasty team with any sort of anything than Rasheen Ali. And I know that's obvious, but it just is what it is.
Yeah, I mean the fun thing about doing 64 guys is, at the end you almost have to look at it like, hey, only the and by the numbers, only 4 of the first round losers are even going to get picked in a 3-round rookie draft for a 12-team league.
Mhm.
So, we're looking at a lot of guys that
Yeah, there's a
have the
ton of these
potential to
guys.
be a waiver wire pickup due to injury or like
Hmm.
some like unforeseen just awesomeness explodes.
Yeah,
But Ali probably not that guy.
probably not. It's fun. It would be cool to see, we are Marshall and everything, get back to that
Hey,
time in life, but I just don't see it happening. So we got the 2 seed Drake Maye moving on. No more upsets in the Atlantic bracket, but that does finish out the bracket. So we'll recap the
oh,
winners real quick for you. We've got the 1 seed Brock Bowers moving forward, the 8 seed Xavier Legette matching up with him next week. Then we have a
like
fun matchup between Malik Washington and Keon Coleman, both moving on this week. And then we have, this one's actually pretty spicy. We have Trey Benson moving on to face Lad McConkey
get
next
it.
time we go. I said next week. I'm not actually sure when that'll be, but so next time we talk the Atlantic bracket, they'll be going up against each other. And then we've got Will Shipley going up against Drake Maye, everybody moving on in the Atlantic bracket. So hopefully you enjoyed that with us because coming up in a few days, we are going to hit you with the South bracket and the last quadrant of the rookie tournament to have a round of 64. So we're going to be through the entire first round here in a couple days. So that's pretty exciting. So if you like what you've been hearing, please join us back. Dan, you got anything before we head out?
No, man, just enjoy yourselves, enjoy some film, and let's
Yeah,
party.
dig in. It's fun. You might not think it'll be fun to just sit there and watch the same guy a bunch, but it actually is a lot of fun if you
Yeah, you
if
got
you're
to
into
build
that kind of
that.
thing. But until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
Later.
I took a lease out